For years, the public has been shown carefully framed images of a famous couple's home life. Sunlit rooms, gentle smiles, soft moments meant to signal warmth, safety, and family. But according to one woman who says she worked inside that home, the reality felt nothing like the pictures. She describes herself as a former childcare professional who lived and worked inside Meghan and Harry's California residence. She insists she is not speaking for attention, money, or revenge. In her words, she came forward because the version of daily life presented to the world never aligned with what she personally experienced behind closed doors. According to her account, the house did not feel like a family home. It felt like a set. She claims that from her very first day, something felt off. The rooms were immaculate, but not lived in. The silence was constant, heavy, and unnatural. For a property said to be home to 2 young children, she says there were none of the sounds that usually define family life. No spontaneous laughter, no crying, no hurried footsteps, no toys left behind in corners. She worked long shifts, often 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. She arrived early, left late, and moved through nearly every part of the house. And yet, she claims she never once encountered Archie or Lilibet, not briefly, not in passing, not even at a distance. She says she expected that to change. At first, she assumed the children were on a different schedule, perhaps with another caregiver, perhaps staying in a separate wing of the house. Days passed, then weeks, then months. Still nothing. No signs of children's routines, no clothes in the laundry, no drawings, no mess, no evidence of young lives unfolding in real time. She claims other staff members quietly noticed the same thing. They exchanged glances, whispered questions, but never spoke openly. According to her, the environment discouraged curiosity. Silence was the unspoken rule. Her confusion deepened when she reflected on Meghan's pregnancies. She states that during her entire period of employment, she never personally observed Meghan pregnant, not in private settings, not at home, not in moments away from cameras. She emphasizes that she understands how serious such a claim sounds and says she has no reason to exaggerate. She is simply stating what she did and did not witness. She claims that what appeared in public photographs did not match the private reality she saw. Other staff, she alleges, privately shared similar doubts, but chose not to voice them. According to her, no one wanted to challenge a narrative that was already firmly established in public. For years, she stayed quiet. She says she assumed someone else would eventually speak, someone with more authority, someone closer to the center. But as time passed and the public story grew more polished, she felt increasingly uneasy about her silence. According to her account, the household operated under intense control. Staff members surrendered their phones at arrival, bags were searched, movement within the house was monitored, cameras were everywhere, though no one was ever told which ones were active. She says the house felt less like a private residence and more like a secured environment. Conversations were cautious, mistakes felt dangerous. Everyone was aware that footage could exist of any moment, and no one knew how that footage might be used. To her, this level of surveillance suggested one thing: the household was deeply concerned with maintaining a specific image. She also describes a hiring process that felt unusually restrictive. According to sources she claims are familiar with staff recruitment, certain preferences were never written down but were clearly communicated. One alleged requirement was that caregivers should not be overly attractive or visually striking. The reasoning, she was told, had nothing to do with jealousy and everything to do with control of perception. The goal, she claims, was consistency of image. No one inside the house was meant to distract attention or shift focus away from Meghan herself. Other expectations were equally demanding: absolute loyalty, total availability, no outside attachments, no partners, no children of their own, no obligations that might compete with the household's needs. She describes it not as a job, but as a controlled existence. According to her, caregivers were expected to be ready at any hour, relocate without warning, and remain emotionally detached from their own lives. Personal boundaries were secondary to the needs of the household. What troubled her most, she says, was the contradiction at the heart of it all. She was hired to support children she never actually saw. As she moved through her days, through quiet hallways, pristine rooms, and tightly managed routines, she began to wonder whether the absence itself was the point, whether the silence was not accidental but intentional. And that was only the beginning. According to the former nanny's account, the interview process itself was the first real warning sign. She says she was invited for what was described as a trial period. It sounded informal, low pressure, but she later came to believe it was something else entirely. She claims hidden cameras monitored her from the moment she entered the property. How she spoke, how she reacted under stress, how she treated other staff when she believed no one important was watching. By the time she formally met Meghan and Harry, she says it felt as though they already knew her, not just her resume, but her habits, her mannerisms, her weaknesses. The interview, in her view, was not an introduction, it was a confirmation. According to people she says were close to the household, trust was not the foundation of life inside the home. Observation was. She also claims there were early disagreements about childcare philosophy. Harry, she alleges, favored a traditional approach, similar to what he experienced growing up: structured routines, professional caregivers trained in established methods. Meghan, she says, wanted something entirely different. No uniforms, no formality, no visible ties to royal traditions. According to her, Meghan's vision ultimately prevailed. But what followed, she says, did not resemble either model. There was no clear routine, no visible family rhythm. Instead, there were moments, carefully timed, carefully framed, that appeared only when cameras were involved. When the Netflix documentary was released, she says she watched with disbelief. The rooms shown on screen did not match her memory of the house. The warmth felt staged. The scenes of casual family life felt rehearsed. Even the outdoor moments, she claims, did not reflect how the space was typically used. She points to the well-known chicken coop scene as an example. According to her, the coop was always immaculate, always ready for filming. She claims she saw Meghan there, but never with the children. To her, it felt less like a genuine activity and more like a prop prepared for storytelling. As she watched the documentary, she says one thought kept returning. The version of life being shown was not the one she lived. She describes Meghan as rarely present unless there was a reason to be seen. She describes Harry as distant, often withdrawn. She describes the household dynamic as transactional rather than intimate. To her, it felt less like a family growing together and more like an operation maintaining appearances. The most disturbing question, she says, was the one no one ever answered. If the staff who worked there daily never saw the children, where were they? She does not claim to know the answer. She does not claim wrongdoing. She claims absence, repetition, silence. She says she eventually realized her silence made her complicit in sustaining a narrative she did not believe reflected reality, and that realization stayed with her long after she left. She insists she is not trying to convince anyone. She is simply telling what she says she experienced. Locked phones, controlled movement, curated moments, a house that looked full on screen but felt empty in real life. She acknowledges that her account raises uncomfortable questions. She also acknowledges that some people will dismiss her entirely. She says she understands that risk, but she maintains one thing: the public story and the private environment did not match. And that discrepancy, she says, is why she finally spoke.
Her story does not end with proof. It ends with uncertainty, with unanswered questions that linger long after the cameras stop rolling. A household built on privacy, yet obsessed with image. A family celebrated for openness, yet surrounded by secrecy. Children central to the narrative, yet absent from daily life. Until more voices speak or more clarity emerges, the gap between perception and reality remains. And in that gap, one question continues to echo louder than the rest. What was really happening inside that house when no one was supposed to be watching?